Water 100% proves flat Earth, and this is why. Water is a two-dimensional substance. It has width and it has depth, but it has no height. Water is two-dimensional. It's our plane. Out of the water comes the land. Now the land is three-dimensional. It has height, it has depth, and it has width. But the water only has two dimensions. We know it goes down and we know it goes across. We do not know it goes up. Now they add gravity, and that's the theory. You cannot measure water and get it to curve. Now flat earthers say water always finds its level, and this is true. And they add gravity. We have buoyancy and density. The sponge will sit on the water until the mass of the water overtakes the sponge and brings the sponge down after it fills up the sponge. There's not a force pulling everything to the center of mass. Buoyant things disprove gravity. A hot air balloon rising because it's lighter than air has nothing to do with inertia. It will go with the wind. If the wind's going one way and the alleged spin of the earth is going another way, it disproves your inertia. But the water is observationally two-dimensional. It just is. It's not curved, and it doesn't have any height to it. It has width, and it has depth. It's a two-dimensional plane. Now, we live in a 10-dimensional world. Some people want to add 11 dimensions. I do 10 dimensions. So the first dimension is 0. That's nothingness. They want to put the sky above as nothingness. The heliocentrists of today do admit that space is flat. It's just nothingness. There's just nothing there. Then you have lights. That's one dimension. Then you have the end of that light or the end of that water. That's two-dimensional, something you can see. But you can only see one side of it at a time. You can see two sides of it. You can see two ends of the spectrum, but you can't see the third end of it. You don't know if there's a third dimension to it yet. The third dimension is then out of that water is land. And then the fourth dimension is the symbols of the stars, the time. The sun and the moon and the stars are at a different vanishing point. You can't see them at all times because you can't see them at the end of the plane. You can't see them at the end of the second dimension. That's why they call it the fourth dimension. It's a fourth shape, but you can only see it within the first and the second dimension. You can only see it off of the plane. You can't see it from the end of the plane. You can't see it from the third dimension. You got to see it from the second dimension. The fifth dimension, the sixth dimension, they're more spiritual realms. People that take ayahuasca and DMT and we'll go to those. The shape of the star that represents the fifth dimension, channeling your desires. People that take drugs, or even when you sleep, you do go into these dream states and you're going to a different state of consciousness. And that's the fifth dimension. The sixth dimension is hell. We don't know if you can experience that in this consciousness. But when you do wake from deep sleeps, or if you do alter your dream state and go to these other dimensions, yes, they do consider that the fifth dimension. Now it's 5 because it's a 5-pointed shape. 5 has 5 points to it that have no equal or lesser value to those shapes. It's a star. It perfectly reflects itself. So you're reflecting your desires off of it. You're not using other higher vanishing points. You're using the same vanishing point. 7 has a higher vanishing point. 7 is a existence out of ourself. The creation story in the Bible talks about God creating the earth in 7 days. That's what he's talking about. He's talking about the calendar and the clock, and he's putting himself in our dimensional field. Now, I use 8 and 9 as like the time loop, and then 8 as 8, and then 9 is like the power grid, and then God is 10. He's 0 and he's 1. He's 1 and he's 2. He's the creator of the creation, but he's also outside of the creation, holding the creation. And all he wants us to do is recognize him. Now, that's like the spiritual side of it. But he said in the beginning he was presiding over the waters. He's outside of time. and then creating time with his creation, and then we steal his creation. And that's what this whole cosmological journey is about, that I'm going on and trying to take you on with me to explain to you that the earth is flat. You don't have to recognize it as God's earth. I'll meet you at flat earth. I don't need you to see it as God's earth in order for me to get along with you, because if you can see it as flat earth, you'll understand that it's not a government's earth. It's not a pagan's earth. It's not something a man or a kingdom or a government can force you to pay taxes to and force you to pay homage to. It's flat earth. It's your home. You were born here and you get to live here, and you shouldn't have the value of your home being manipulated. And they're manipulating it first and foremost by not letting you know the shape of it. And it's land out of water, and the water's flat. It's only got 2 dimensions.